Can you answer 60 questions about human anatomy? Only a medical genius gets a perfect score. Don't forget to subscribe for more daily health quizzes. Let's begin. What is this? Which organ consumes the most energy at rest? That's the brain. Can you name this? How many bones does the adult human body have? That's the 206. How about this one? Which organ produces bile? That's the liver. Next question. Which muscle is the strongest relative to its size? That's the masseter. Do you know this? Which organ oxygenates the blood? That's the lungs. Identify this. Which part of the eye captures light? That's the retina. And this? Which organ plays a key role in balance? That's the cerebellum. What's the answer here? What is the longest bone in the human body? That's the femur. Moving on. Where are sweat glands most concentrated? That's the palms of the hands. Take a guess. Which organ filters the blood continuously? That's the kidneys. What is this? Which organ can partially regenerate? That's the liver. Can you name this? Which cells carry oxygen in the blood? That's the red blood cells. How about this one? Which brain area manages long-term memory? That's the hippocampus. Next question. Which hormone is released during intense stress? That's the adrenaline. Do you know this? Which organ produces insulin? That's the pancreas. Identify this. Which part of the body is not vascularized? That's the cornea. And this? What do tendons connect? That's the muscle to bone. What's the answer here? Which part of the ear turns vibrations into nerve signals? That's the cochlea. Moving on. What is the heaviest organ in the human body? That's the skin. Take a guess. Which brain area controls voluntary movements? That's the motor cortex.
What is this? Which type of muscle is involuntary and rhythmic? That's the cardiac muscle. Can you name this? What substance gives blood its red color? That's the hemoglobin. How about this one? Which structure filters blood in the kidney? That's the glomerulus. Next question. Which organ detoxifies most medications? That's the liver. Do you know this? Which gland regulates metabolism? That's the thyroid. Identify this. Which nervous system works automatically? That's the autonomic nervous system. And this? Which hormone regulates sleep? That's melatonin. What's the answer here? Which brain area is linked to decision-making? That's the frontal lobe. Moving on, which tissue protects the brain from shocks? That's the meninges. Take a guess. Where do gas exchanges occur in the lungs? That's alveoli. What is this? Which tissue produces cells throughout life? That's bone marrow. Can you name this? Which brain area recognizes faces? That's the fusiform cortex. How about this one? Which molecule provides direct energy to cells? That's ATP. Next question. Which organ plays a major role in immunity by filtering blood? That's the spleen. Do you know this? Which skin layer determines skin color? That's the epidermis. Identify this. Where are red blood cells produced in adults? That's bone marrow. And this? Which brain area is the most recent evolutionarily? That's the prefrontal cortex. What's the answer here? Which organ contains the most bacteria? That's the intestine. Moving on, which hormone triggers contractions during childbirth? Oxytocin. Take a guess. Which structure protects the spinal cord? That's the vertebrae.
What is this? Which brain area is involved in time perception? That's the cerebellum. Can you name this? Which organ strongly regulates blood pressure? That's the kidney. How about this one? How is a nerve message transmitted between neurons? That's the neurotransmitters. Next question. Which part of the eye enables night vision? That's the rods. Do you know this? Which organ stores vitamins A, D, E, and K? That's the liver. Identify this. Which gland is the master gland of the endocrine system? That's the pituitary gland. And this, which organ produces lymphocytes? That's bone marrow. What's the answer here? Which brain area manages primary emotions? That's the limbic system. Moving on, which organ survives the longest without oxygen? That's the skin. How about this one? Which structure allows the heart to beat autonomously? That's the sinoatrial node. Next question. Which body part has the most nerve endings? That's the lips. Do you know this one? Which organ can change size depending on needs? That's the stomach. Identify this. Which brain area is activated during social rejection? That's the cingulate cortex. And this? Which organ helps produce vitamin D? That's the skin. What's the answer here? Which blood component enables clotting? That's platelets. Moving on, where does nutrient absorption occur? That's the small intestine. Take a guess. Which organ forms first in the embryo? That's the heart. What is this? Which brain area is essential for language? That's Broca's area. Can you name this? Which organ can briefly function without oxygen? That's muscle. How about this one? Which structure connects the two brain hemispheres? That's the corpus callosum. You finished all 60 questions. How many did you get right? Are you an anatomy master? Tell us in the comments.